This episode is sponsored by State Farm. Choices are great. Like with your podcasts, you get to choose what you want to listen to. And State Farm believes insurance should work the same way. That's why the State Farm Personal Price Plan helps you get the coverage you want at an affordable price and a policy that helps cover what you value most. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Call or go to statefarm.com today to create your State Farm Personal Price Plan. Prices vary by state. Options selected by customer. Availability and eligibility may vary.
As if the McCrispy couldn't get any better, Bacon and Ranch just entered the chat. The Bacon Ranch McCrispy, available at participating McDonald's for a limited time. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
Viking fans, and welcome to the Vikings ship with Purple Mafia. Today is Sunday, the 9th of November, 2008. This is episode number 18 of Purple Mafia, and we are ready to rock and roll once again, as what a game it truly was today. The Vikings defeat the Green Bay Packers 28-27 in one of the great games of the season. And it was a total pleasure to see this game, at least in terms of who won the game. That's the most exciting part. That's the best part, at least for us here on the west side of the border battle, the west side. But first and foremost, I want to thank each and every one of you for downloading and listening to this show, Purple Mafia, which is available on thesportstuff.com and on iTunes. If you have not subscribed to me on iTunes, please do. And if you have not become a member on the sportstuff.com message boards, please become one. On the front page of the website, there's a button in the upper right-hand corner that says TSS Boards. Click on that. You'll be prompted to sign up. And please do. It is 100% free and 100% fun, as more and more members have been hopping in, along with more and more shows, which is fantastic. This site is growing in a big way. And, of course, you're also welcome to vote on the polls for the shows in the podcast section. We usually have polls for our episodes of our shows. Today I'm not going to have a poll for my show just because I said so. No, but speaking of polls, well, we have a new president. He is President-elect Barack Obama. Now, I talked about this on the other two shows, but being they are of the Minnesota Timberwolves and Minnesota Wild, some of you may not listen to those shows or may not know about them either way. So I'm going to make my comment on this show as well. Now, first and foremost, I didn't vote for Barack Obama because I am, I guess, what you could call a Ron Paul Republican. I believe in the Ron Paul revolution. That is where I stand, but I want to offer my support to Barack Obama and my congratulations to him and to all of you out there, which there are obviously quite a few of you, being he won in such a landslide, who supported him. I want to congratulate all of you on the victory, on this historic victory for Barack Hussein Obama, who will be our 44th president. He is in our prayers, and we will support him as the President of the United States. And I personally am optimistic for the future. I mean, I'm intrigued. So we'll just see what happens. Well, with the Vikings win today and a 5-4 record, there just might not be a regime change with the Vikings. We'll see. Though I'm sure a lot of you would like the word change in the Vikings administration. So we'll see what happens. But with that, we're going to get on to the episode, because this intro's run a little bit long, but hey, it's election year. So now that I got that out of the way, we'll be back after this announcement. Here on the SportStuff.com, we're bursting in blue with Timberwolves Explosion. Timberwolves fans, your show has arrived at last as we bring in a new era with Al Jefferson, Kevin Love, and Mike Miller. We're available on the SportStuff.com and also available on iTunes. Download and listen to in-depth and detailed coverage of your favorite team. Show your true blue and join this explosion of Timberwolves basketball. And we are back here on Purple Mafia. Again, episode number 18 for iPod users who just might not be able to know which episode number it is. There it is, episode number 18, the border battle, the Vikings and Packers. And this was the first time the Packers come to the Dome without Brett Favre since 1991. Mike McCarthy, by the way, is 11-3 versus the NFC North coming into this game. That is an amazing record. Absolutely amazing, and what a success rate he has had. And 5-0 against the Minnesota Vikings. 5-0 against Brad Childress anyway. As that battle has been quite one-sided until today. And the number one, the 1-5 now that Brad Childress is against Mike McCarthy, the one stands strong, as that's how many points the Vikings won by today. Unbelievable. Green Bay wins the coin toss, but the Viking defense stops Green Bay's first offensive series as Jordy Nelson and Aaron Rodgers couldn't connect on a long third down play. Charles Gordon has a nice 20-yard punt return to get the Vikings in good field position to start the first series. And that was a strength for the Minnesota Vikings throughout the game today. Good field position. Imagine that. The Vikings could use that once in a while. Now, the Vikings offense moves with timely completions, and Adrian Peterson's second effort on a third and short gets the Vikings into the red zone, where the Vikings have the third fewest touchdowns in the NFL this year so far. But thankfully, this time the Vikings were able to score a touchdown as Frerrotte hits Sidney Rice on 3rd and goal, and Rice's second straight game with a touchdown, and his third overall this year on only 5 total catches this year. So the Vikings are up 7-0. And, remember that old saying, as I said last week, all he does is catch touchdowns that Buddy Ryan used to say about Chris Carter. Whew! Sidney Rice has made 5 catches with 3 touchdowns. So all he does is catch touchdowns. That's pretty much the fact right now, but hey, sooner or later you know that Sidney Rice is going to break through again. Unfortunately, he made 1 catch today, which was more than the amount of catches Bernard Berrien made today. Bernard Berrien did not make a catch, and that is after and right when I put the title on episode number 17 that Frerrotte and Berrien are like kindred spirits the way they have connected this year. I mean, what a beautiful thing. It's the best thing since Culpepper to Moss, and it really has been. Until today, nothing. Zip, nada. So that sucks, but oh well. Now again, the Vikings defense looked good again on the following drive as Napoleon Harris, number 99 now, not 58, as that number was taken away by E.J. Henderson before he got hurt. But yeah, anyway, makes his presence felt with a sack and showing he's still got it. Along with Brian Robinson getting a sack on the very next play, forcing the Packers to punt. Unfortunately, the Packers defense then makes a statement as Charles Woodson gets his 5th interception this year when he picks off Gus Frerrotte on the first play of the next series, giving the Packers the ball on the Vikings. 48. And now the Packers offense's turn here, folks, as they wake up as Ryan Grant breaks through with a big gain. Then Rodgers hits Greg Jennings for a 15-yard gain, who then fumbles, but luckily for the Packers, Donald Driver recovered the ball. And that's not the first time that Donald Driver came up big, and we'll get into that later. The Packers' drive then ends with 2 runs by Ryan Grant, who got in the end zone to tie the game 7-7. The Vikings' drive, though, the following drive, that is, looked done until Al Harris was flagged for illegal contact, giving us the first down. Chester Taylor has been a go-to guy when we need a first down by making a catch and runs, basically, to move the chains as he gets yet another to end the first quarter. Vikings ultimately, though, get stopped by Green Bay at the Green Bay 37, but Ryan Longwell continues to amaze as he nails a 54-yarder to make it 10-7 Vikings. The following drive, Kevin Williams knocks the ball out of Aaron Rodgers' hands in their own end zone, who then picks up the ball and flings it wildly. He just flung it like, whoop, get it out of here, like it's basketball or something. I don't know what he was thinking. And it's then called an illegal pass, but really could have been called intentional grounding. But either way, Troy Aikman was talking about that. But the Vikings then get a rare safety. The Vikings got a safety. Wow. Making it 12-7 Vikings, as that's obviously a really strange score. Unfortunately, though, the Vikings are stopped. But when Kluwe's punt is caught in the end zone, Will Blackmon gets gutty and tries to make a run, and then is stopped at the 9, drawing the ire of Coach McCarthy. Packers then are stopped partially by a questionable holding call on Donald Driver. Unfortunately, though, Charles Gordon then is hurt on the punt return on what appears to be a serious ankle or foot injury if he had to be carted off the field. And lots of Packers and Vikings were very concerned and classy, though, how they all came over and wished him the best of luck, patting him on the back and stuff. It's a shame. Charles Gordon is a valuable guy. He's obviously not perfect, but he's a very valuable guy. And, now thoughts and prayers are with him, Charles Gordon, the person, and his health, hoping he can return speedily, and he'll be able to resume his career to the best of his ability, and, we'll see what happens, I guess, with that. Peterson, by the way, in his career, Adrian Peterson, that is, as you probably guessed, is averaging 117 yards per game at home in his career, putting him with the all-time greats in that category. So that's a number definitely to look at with the Minnesota Vikings and Adrian Peterson when they're at home. Very intriguing stuff that came up during the game today. But yeah, speaking of great, the Vikings get their second safety of the first half when Jared Allen blows through the Green Bay line to sack Aaron Rodgers in the end zone for his 8th sack, making it a more solid 14-7 Vikings lead with 44 seconds to go in the first half. So that's the good news. But after a few run plays that annoyed the home crowd, Frerrotte then threw in Berrien's direction, but unfortunately behind Berrien. The pass was behind him. Frerrotte was not very accurate today, by the way, which then was picked off by Tramon Williams, giving the Packers an unexpected chance to get some last-second points, which they got on a 47-yard field goal by Mason Crosby to make it 14-10 Vikings at the half. So that's where things took a turn for the worse there. But it could be better. Could be worse overall. At least they didn't get a touchdown. Well, we'll get to that later. That's a little hint for you, unfortunately. But now to look at the half, a little mini summary, I guess you could say. The running game was working a heck of a lot better in the first half than the passing game, as Peterson had 80 yards and 14 carries for about 6 yards a carry, whereas Frerrotte had only 47 yards, completing only 7 of 15 passes with 1 touchdown and 2 interceptions. So not good news there at all. But I guess it could be worse. As, both pretty much Frerrotte's completion percentage and quarterback rating were both in the 40s. So there you go. That just tells you he's not having a very good game. But we'll digress. As now in the second half, as I said, Chester Taylor was doing a great job moving the chains on those little underneath passes. But on this particular catch, he breaks multiple tackles and goes the distance on a 47-yard catch and run to make it 21-10 Vikings with 10:31 to go. And this is the point that you think, here we go, the Vikings are going to pull away, and this is going to be one of those games where we're just going to be like, oh yeah, this was the Vikings' day. The Vikings were due to kick the Packers, but, it's a home game. Let's just have some fun here. Ah, boy. But things kind of start to take a turn for the worse here. Pretty quick. The Packers are snuffed in the following drive, though, when Chad Greenway sacks Aaron Rodgers for a 12-yard loss. After a false start penalty, the Packers can't convert on 3rd and 19. So after the Vikings start with good field position, they get little done. And then Longwell comes up with a rare miss on a 48-yard attempt. But guess what, folks? Gus Frerrotte. See, this is when things start to change, as Gus Frerrotte does it again. Now, there you go again. Sorry, I had to throw that in there again. Little politics. Nah, I'm kidding. But yeah, a Tavares Jackson-like play by Gus Frerrotte. getting his third interception of the game. This one to Nick Collins, who returns it 59 yards for a touchdown. And all of a sudden, it's 21-17 Vikings. Green Bay is number one in the NFL in points from takeaways, and it showed today, and that's for dang sure. And it gets worse, folks. It gets worse. Here we go again, as I'm sure anyone wearing purple was saying when Will Blackmon returned Kluwe's punt 65 yards to pay dirt for what seems to be the 99th touchdown. Our kick coverage has given up this year. I mean, it really feels like it, doesn't it? The Packers scored 14 points in less than 2 minutes, folks, to completely change the face of this game and taking a 24-21 lead. So all that kumbaya stuff is gone, and now it's time to get serious, folks. It's time to get serious here. After the Vikings, not surprisingly, are snuffed, though, once again, Ryan Grant runs right through the Vikings line for 14 yards on the final play of the third quarter, setting the stage for the fourth quarter. Setting the stage, folks. But right when you thought the Vikings stopped the Packers, Jared Allen flagged for roughing the quarterback, keeping the drive alive. Thankfully, though, that's all the farther Green Bay would get. Thank God that was all they would get, as we pretty much got lucky there. The way things were going for the Packers, I mean, I thought, here we go. It's going to be like 34-21, and then instead it's going to go completely the other direction, and we're going to be chanting Fire Childress all night long. Wouldn't you just love that? No, probably not. The Vikings, well, this is where you can start talking about firing Childress again, as the Vikings then are stopped on their 41, not the Packers 41, but their 41, making it 4th and 1. The spot was challenged by Childress, and, the spot was confirmed by the refs, so that means, the play didn't change, and the Vikings lose a timeout. After getting basically harassed by Adrian Peterson on the sidelines, a very emotional, in-your-face Adrian Peterson at this point in time of the game, wanting Childress, begging him to go for it. They do go for it. But guess what? Peterson basically goes backwards and then fumbles the ball, but then the ruling is that Green Bay gets the ball on the 41. Just flat out lost it down, and the ball is on our 41. Fortunately, now this is where the Vikings got real lucky. The Vikings were able to stop the Packers in the 22, thank God. But, hey, not surprisingly, Crosby converts on a 40-yard field goal to make it 27-21 Green Bay. On the following drive, though, this was the statement of statements, and this is where the star of stars, as the star of stars, as David Stern, the NBA commissioner, would say, Adrian Peterson today was the star of stars, as he absolutely took over the game right here. Because on the following drive, the emotional, passionate, and go-get-'em Adrian Peterson led the Vikings with big plays after the catch and blowing through Packer defenders on rushes as he nears the 200-yard mark on a defining 29-yard touchdown run to put the Vikings up 28-27. 28-27. This was with about 2:22 left in the game. Obviously, there was concern all over the place because, hey, 2:22 is a hell of a lot of time to score, folks, for the Green Bay Packers. But the Vikings defense can play. You got to remember that they can play. They're not too bad. They're not the 98 defense, or well, I shouldn't even go there. Let's say the 2002 defense or whatever. Oh my God, talking about bad memories. But wouldn't you know though? Wouldn't you know when it's these two teams playing, or just whenever the Vikings are playing with a teeny tiny lead against a somewhat decent quarterback and somewhat decent offense, that something wacky would happen on the following drive? Yeah, it did. When Ellis Wims deflected Rodgers' pass in the air, so he knocked it upward, unfortunately. I was like, come on, purple jerseys, come down, please, come on, somebody with a purple jersey, just pick it off and we can get out of here with the win. No, Donald Driver would bring it in for a 19-yard gain. And all of a sudden, they're at the Vikings 40. Now remember, we were only up by 1 point, right? A simple field goal and the game's going to be pretty much over and the Packers are going to win. That totally sucked. But here's where the Vikings defense made the stand, and they were able to stop the Packers at the 34, thank God. And Crosby sets up from 52 yards out. The kick is up, and it slices just wide to the right. And the Vikings pull off their biggest win of the year by far and are now 5-4 and tied with Chicago atop the division. Of course, Chicago owning the tiebreaker for now because of that 48-41 victory a few weeks back. But hey, we are atop the division with the Chicago Bears, who, by the way, lost today. That's why we're tied. Lost to the still undefeated Tennessee Titans. I mean, what is up with those Tennessee Titans? That is unbelievable how they continue to rock and roll. But Chicago did play very respectable football today. I'll just look at that game super duper quick before I talk about Tampa Bay. That's the next Vikings opponent, and that is not going to be easy at all. Playing in Tampa Bay for the Vikings historically has been virtually fatal. It's not been fun at all. I mean, I've seen 28-point leads go up in smoke there back in the old days when Tampa Bay sucked. So what does that tell you? But yeah, Titans are 9-0. And once again, they edge another division rival. Last week it was Green Bay. This week it's Chicago. 21-14. The Bears are 5-4. Rex Grossman is the quarterback for the Bears right now. Only one interception, so that's good. He did get a touchdown, passing and rushing. So he wasn't too bad, but certainly not great. A quarterback rating of 64.4. So it's kind of to a point of beating the Bears, even though the Packers still very much a threat in this division. The only team that isn't are the Detroit Lions, who I'll just talk about super duper quick because I like to do a little division review. I'm going to pretty much do that instead of NFL roundup. And now we talked about the 9-0 Tennessee Titans. They're undefeated. Well, now we get the undefeating Detroit Lions, who are 0-9, who got trounced today by the struggling and divided Jacksonville Jaguars, who are 4-5 only, even though they won 38-14 today. There's a lot of infighting going on with the Jacksonville Jaguars, so many reports say. Young running back Kevin Smith stepped up great for Detroit, 23 rushes, 96 yards, and a touchdown. But I'm just kidding. Maurice Jones-Drew, though, 70 yards and 3 touchdowns. He breaks through big time. As Fred Taylor earlier in the year said, it's finally time for Maurice Jones-Drew to take over. Fred Taylor didn't exactly suck, though. He got 18 rushes, so he got the ball more, and he did get 80 yards. So Fred Taylor, a factor. He's at least a factor, and that's what counts. But real quick, let's talk about Dante Culpepper. He completed 5 of 10 passes, 50%. Wahoo, he threw an interception. There's the biggest surprise of the year. 104 yards. So that's your line for Dante Culpepper. Stanton also got to play, completed 6 of 8 passes with a touchdown and a quarterback rating of 153. So we'll see what happens over there. Hard to say what's going on over in Detroit right now. It makes little to no sense as far as I'm concerned. Calvin Johnson with 92 yards, 2 catches. Oh, goody. 51-yard catch, and I guess a very long catch as well to go along. Another 41-yard catch. So that's great, but we'll move on from that. So there's your NFC North division review. Not Central. I mentioned Central accidentally when I was talking about the Viking game against the Carolina Panthers earlier in the year on YouTube. So, yeah, whatever. NFC North, we know. All right, so I'm going to take a real quick break, and we're going to talk a little bit about the Tampa Bay Bucks right after this. Here on the SportStuff.com, we're toughing up on Brave the Wild with Palladino. Join me, Palladino, as we brave the Minnesota Wild Hockey Club on our way to the playoffs. We're available on the SportStuff.com and iTunes. The boogeyman, Derek Bugard, says you'd better listen or he just might drop the gloves. Call up your courage and brave the Wild with your buddy, Palladino Joey. And we are back here on Purple Mafia. We're going to talk about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Minnesota Vikings will play them next week. They are 6-3, second in the extremely competitive NFC South. Some people at one point called this the worst team or the worst division in football. Are you nuts? No, that's pretty much my comment to those people. 6-2 Carolina Panthers, 6-3 Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 5-3 Atlanta Falcons and the 4-4 New Orleans Saints running up to the bottom. I believe they are now 5-4 though after losing to the ever-talented Atlanta Falcons today. Yes, they did lose today to the Atlanta Falcons and are, now 4-5. Oh, goody. They lost 34-20. So, yeah, I'll get off that topic right away. We're here to talk about the Buccaneers, who are still coached by John Gruden, who I'm a giant fan of, by the way. I mean, I really am. This team still has a deadly defense. They still have Jeff Garcia. They still have Brian Griese, or at least they got him back. I like Brian Griese a lot, but Jeff Garcia has been the better quarterback this year with 5 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, quarterback rating of 90. 1,363 yards in only 6 games. That's pretty good numbers, actually, for an old, fruity-sounding guy. Ernest Graham is a pretty dangerous running back, but not the best running back I've ever seen or anything. Though they have a tandem there, just like we do. Warwick Dunn also almost as many yards. He actually averages more yards per carry, but doesn't have as many touchdowns. Ernest Graham with 560 and 4. Warwick Dunn with 423 and 1. Warwick Dunn hasn't fumbled once this year. Ernest Graham has fumbled twice. Could be worse. But overall, this is a pretty dangerous team. They got 3 receivers I could see as a potential threat going into this game. Antonio Bryant, who is still playing. Ike Hilliard, who is still playing. I mean, yeah, these guys have been around for a little while. Antonio Bryant's not that old, I guess. No, he seems older than he is. He's actually 2 years younger than me. But yeah, 566 yards, 2 touchdowns. He's always a threat. Inconsistent though over his career. Ike Hilliard, who is former New York Giant, been pretty valuable guy over his career. He's got 281 catches and 3 touchdowns. Now this guy is a little bit older. He is 32 years old. So, but a nice veteran. He's not a guy who's ever really been a superstar, but he plays his role and he does it well. And that's the way that's what kind of receivers Tampa Bay has had over their run, pretty much, other than Keyshawn Johnson, who just underachieved and acted like an idiot. Michael Clayton, who was a solid first-round pick a few years back, hasn't really been the player I expected him to be, but he's having an okay season with 253 yards and 24 receptions. Nothing really scary overall, but when you have a quarterback in Jeff Garcia who's playing well, this team is ever dangerous. It's a pretty emotional football team, aggressive. They have an emotional coach who likes to get in it. I remember him hurling FU bombs at Roy Williams when the Cowboys were taunting the Bucs pretty much 2 weeks ago, or a week ago, I believe it was. No, it was 2 weeks ago. Yep, that 13-9 loss at Dallas. Yeah, I hate the Cowboys, and I didn't blame Gruden there. As Roy Williams' first game was just acting like a jackass. What a surprise! But yeah, I'm extremely concerned going into this game, and I have little to no confidence going into this game, if you want my honest opinion. Do you really see Brad Childress beating John Gruden? I don't know about that, man. I really don't. It's like Glass Joe going against Mike Tyson in Mike Tyson's Punch-Out right now, at least the way it looks at this point. That's at least Childress versus Gruden. The Vikings are a lot more competitive team than Childress is a coach, I think. So it's up to the players. Thank God it's still a players' league. So we'll just have to see what happens. Bernard Berrien better catch some passes, and Frerrotte needs to play better than he did today. He really does. He plays like anything like he did today in Tampa Bay, it will be a blowout and of astronomical proportions with this defense in Tampa Bay, who never are bad. I mean, they've had a couple of drops. They're not the team defensively they were years ago, but they still are the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and they always will be defensively, because Tony Dungy put his stamp on that franchise that it will never leave, the defense. So we're just going to have to see what happens. Of course, the multiple running backs and multiple receivers, that can get it done. So that's the way it's going to go. And right now I'm predicting oh boy, hate to do this, guys. I'm going to say 27-21 Tampa. All right? 27-21 Tampa. So we'll see if I'm right or wrong. It's up to you. what you think. Again, as I said, no poll this week. I just don't feel like doing one, and not been happy with the lack of reaction on those polls. Hope to see more reaction when I do get the polls back up going again. Timberwolves explosion polls have been great, but again, most importantly, you fans have been great. I do appreciate the solid ratings for this show. Please tell a friend about Purple Mafia. Encourage them to listen and to subscribe on iTunes and to sign up on the message boards and TSS boards, thesportstuff.com. Also, a way to get there besides the little button on the upper right-hand corner. The other way to get there is thesportspodcasters.com/boards, thesportspodcasters.com/boards. Feel free to email me, palladinolive@yahoo.com, palladinolive@yahoo.com, and even check out my YouTube if you like to see some of my entertaining video game reviews and Viking game reviews. And I haven't been doing too many lately, but I put a lot of work into the ones that I've done. It is youtube.com/Paladin Joe, youtube.com/Paladin Joe, or just type in Palladino Live in the search and you'll eventually find what you're looking for. But again, I thank each and every one of you for listening. I hope the Vikings can overachieve and defeat the Bucs and go 6-4. We'll see what happens. But until then, I'm out.